Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, that literally doesn't make sense. You're like, okay, they're doing it, but you don't want anyone to resist against it. And you will spend a good deal of time criticizing the ways in which, like, the Houthis have tried to incur penalties. They try to create penalties on Israel for doing. Would you say your notorious shared ability has to stop before these people get you into real harm? Entire communities are practically calling for your arrest, while yours are just jacking off to the latest armpit screenshot or whatever. What? No. I'm in the business of trying. Listen, chatters, I need you to understand something. Okay? If you get in the pigsty and you wrestle with pigs, you're going to get shit all over yourself. And the pig's gonna like it. Okay? And that in and of itself was a perfect demonstration of the back and forth that took place this past Friday. I have been relentlessly attacked in perpetuity by apolitical content creators, liberals that don't like my foreign policy perspective, liberals that don't like my criticisms of the Kamala Harris campaign or the Brandon administration, and the entirety of the right wing, people who love Donald Trump, Nazis, apolitical people that present themselves as apolitical centrists, even though they're very far right. I've duked it out with every single type of content creator that has ever broached politics, right? I am seen as a beacon for leftism, for better or for worse. It's not something that I wanted to be seen as, but it is something that I am seen as. And in a world where a lot of people are hostile to leftist values, leftist ideology, leftist statements, they just basically try to undermine the messenger instead of tackling the message to the best of their ability. There's a lot of shit stirring that goes on, right? That's precisely the reason why no one makes the argument, or no one tries to tackle the argument that I present when talking about the Houthis, for example, right? Like, people will be like, okay, well, you're supporting. That's it. That's just a way to stop the argument. I don't like when people talk about when people defend Israel. I don't just say you're supporting. I also end up explaining to you why what Israel is doing is. But for many people, they just kind of rely on pre-existing biases that people have to not really make an argument, but to hopefully stoke enough fear around the commentary that I'm engaging in. My position is very clear, especially when it comes to foreign policy, but just in general. I try to present a counter narrative, an alternative narrative that you normally cannot get. Okay? You normally will not be getting this kind of narrative, this perspective from any other mainstream outlet. You know, nice try, terror supporter. Exactly, just like that. So this is precisely the reason why. What? Hiding the chat? Hiding what chat? People are fantasizing about whatever is going on in the, like, they think that they know what's happening. Yeah. Ansarullah Houthis did not kidnap those sailors. They were legally detained for violating a legal embargo against Israel. Don't concede the framing of kidnap. I mean, even in that situation, like, I think that those guys should have been released. Like, I don't even disagree with that. But I think that perspective is marginal. It's like you're hyper focusing on any kind of wrongdoing that you can find in that process, in the methods of these guys. Like, they've also accidentally they've fired rockets on vessels, and I mean, there has been one, like, actual human casualty in the process. I think that that's also unacceptable. This is like an unfortunate byproduct of implementing a blockade. America, of course, has been incredibly violent when implementing other blockades, like the one on Cuba, but it doesn't matter. Like, I understand that, but in the grand scheme of things, I recognize that what they are doing is still on the morally correct side of the argument. And people don't want to entertain that, even if they seemingly agree, right? There are a lot of Americans out there who have found themselves in this unique position where on the close your post, don't want that weird shit to pop up. What are you talking about? Could you get Ryan Coogler on the stream? I would love to. Like, people, there's a lot of people online who have not really thoroughly examined their positions, their own personal positions, their own personal convictions on this stuff. and have basically designed a world. Also, thank me for rating. What the hey, Central Committee, thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, a lot of people have designed the world in a way, or feel as though they have this worldview where they, on the one side, say Israel's doing it, okay, or Israel's bad, Israel's the big bad. I can't believe Israel is doing such horrible things. But also, everyone resisting against Israel is a terrorist that should be violently killed and stopped, right? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, that literally doesn't make sense. You're like, okay, they're doing a genocide, but you don't want anyone to resist against it. And you will spend a good deal of time criticizing the ways in which, like, the Houthis have tried to incur penalties. They try to create penalties on Israel for doing is the worst crime of humanity. So it just doesn't make any sense. It means that they don't believe the first thing. Exactly. I do think that some people do actually believe the first thing and don't believe the second thing. They don't understand it. They don't understand, like, that is the unfortunate byproduct of liberalism. It is the unfortunate byproduct of liberalism, which is that the unfortunate byproduct. You posted a single frame from the meme video that shows nothing. Wait, really? Oh, I thought it actually saved it. Oops. Oh, I thought it was the video, the poop sock video. The unfortunate byproduct of liberalism is, yeah, this is what I was trying to download. It up. I should have just used the Grack one. All right, we'll do this. Oh, also, I watched some of this video, the selective outreach video. It was very good, for the record. Very, very good. People don't care about the shitload of Anne Franks who have been murdered and forgotten about in Gaza because they don't give a fuck about brown people. Yeah, they just don't. They don't care. I mean, Nazi Germany didn't care about the Anne Franks either, clearly. Like, the average German also didn't care, even if they understood that it was happening in their own villages, you know? Like, they lived right next to a concentration camp and did not give a shit, clearly. I'm really worried because they're going to use this to double down further on their atrocities. Unrelated to this, but I think that one part of the debate where Ethan accidentally went you and started gaslighting me into thinking he said they, your response regarding that was so mature. Like, it's very clear you actually care about the issue of Palestine and Israel, and it's not just petty bullshit like Ethan. Yes. And I was also still willing to give him charitability even in that regard, even in that moment. But yeah, you want me to get Miko Peled on the stream? Isn't that the former... He's like the former general. I mean, he's the Israeli guy who's like anti-Zionist, right? What is it? He's the Story of the Holy Land Foundation 5. His father, Matityahu Peled, who fought the 1948 Arab-Israeli War and served as general in the Six-Day War, became an advocate for Israeli dialogue with the Palestinian Liberation Organization after the Israeli cabinet. Miko Peled followed his father's footsteps at first, joining the Israel Special Forces after high school, earning the Red Beret, but he soon grew to regret that decision. He surrendered his status as soon as he earned it, becoming a medic, but finally, disgusted by the 82 Lebanon War, buried his service pin in the dirt. One evening, Peled skipped the Peace Now demonstration in Jerusalem to attend a karate class, and on that evening, a grenade attack by right-wing extremists killed one of the demonstrators, Emil Grunzweig. Peled took this as a sign, according to one interview, and consequently followed the path of karate, a practice of nonviolence. That's such a funny way to... That is such a funny way to adopt a political worldview. I'm not going to lie. Ethan really thought you participated in the debate just to let him yell at you over your behavior? Yeah, I know. The Daily Wire's decline.
Things are not going well.
Jose did a downfall of the Daily Wire. I'm here for it. We'll take a look at that. Anyway, let's get started. As a German in Gaza, and also the U.S. turn to fascism has been the most eye-opening case study I've ever witnessed. Yeah. I think one of the most insane parts about that is that it also kind of makes sense as to how a lot of the average German, like in German society, that wasn't oblivious to these because they lived around concentration camps, like Germans that moved into, you know, Poland or all these other like occupied territories, like how they could turn a blind eye to these and how they could turn on their own fellow neighbors. As a matter of fact, you get to see that in real time because we are quite literally experiencing a live streamed Holocaust right now, and it's being done with American munitions, it's being done with American tax dollars, and people can see it every day. People can communicate with the victims of it that are experiencing this genocide. I mean, I've directly interviewed someone who escaped Gaza. Like, he was sitting right next to me. You know what I mean? Motaz Azaiza. And even then, there are a lot of people who turn a blind eye to these atrocities or try to package it in a way that makes sense in their own minds. This is what I mean when I say, like, there is an extent to liberalism where they think that they are engaging in a pacifist approach. Someone from this community was literally killed in Gaza. Multiple people from this community have been killed in Gaza at this point. So, you know, I don't know. We should be trying to do everything in our power to stop, put a stop to all of this violence. A YouTuber calls up Hakim and others in Soviet atrocity denial and historical misinformation. I don't care, dude. What the fuck? Okay. All right. Let's get to Yemen's Houthis hit Tel Aviv airport with hypersonic missile. Israel vows response. I was on your side most of the debate. Only thing I felt like you were misrepresenting why he was talking about why people fled to Israel. He was just saying it wasn't because of Zionism, not that Palestine wasn't responsible for all Arab countries. I don't know who's right, but there was miscommunication there. Yes, I think we talked over one another on that front. I also admitted that, but it's a concept that is akin to the double genocide theory that came after World War II, where a lot of historians consider Holocaust revisionism, as a matter of fact, to imply that the USSR has also done even more crimes against humanity than even Nazi Germany did, and that is a way to actually whitewash the crimes of Nazi Germany. It's called the double genocide theory, right? This is a version of genocide revisionism, historical revisionism surrounding the atrocities of the Holocaust. And this is the Israeli version of that, which is the double Nakba, basically, where the claim is that a direct planned exterminationist policy that was carried out that successfully ethnically cleansed indigenous populations, 750,000 of them from their ancestral homelands, is the same as other countries, different nations, and their own reaction to said exterminationist campaigns during the pan-Arabic nationalist movements that happened to exist as nation states were being designed, as these Arab countries that we now know, these nations that we look at in the MENA region, they have not been around for that long either. Like, they have existed in one way, shape, or form in the past, but they were usually under the banner of some kind of imperial power, whether it's the Ottoman Empire or whether it is the French or the British Empire, colonial. These were areas that the British and the French controlled, right? And half of those places that Ethan was using as a comparison were not even under the rulership. They didn't have full sovereignty in Arab hands to begin with. All the way for the entire MENA region and the Levant, a lot of these places did not even have like complete sovereignty at this point. So you could attribute a lot of the violence and the lack of response from the administrators to said violence directly back to Western colonial powers. As a matter of fact, you're saying that decentralized acts of violence coming from completely separate countries was what forced many Jews living in Arab countries, many Arab Jews that were a part of the fabric of these nation states that had these unique the unique cultural heritage of living in these nation states under the Ottoman Empire, that you know, had their own, you know, they had the same language, had the same food, all of that, all of a sudden is directly the fault of the Arabs being anti-Semitic across the board. What are you talking about? He didn't let you speak. How else were you supposed to get your point across? You didn't speak over him and kept interrupting you because you had solid points. I know, but I'm saying there was miscommunication in the back and forth that Ethan and I had on that point, and that I recognize that, because I feel like we talked over one another, because I don't deny that there was anti-Semitic acts that took place in Morocco, Iraq, Egypt, many of these places where there were Jewish people that lived. The reason why Jewish people lived in many of those places, ironically enough, was also because initially either they had, you know, moved away over the 1,000-year period. Libya is another one. Like, over the, you know, thousands of years, they migrated from where Judea and Samaria is, right? But also A big part of the reason why there was a lot of Jewish people in these regions was because they saw the Ottoman Empire as a safe haven for Jews, as opposed to Western Europe, as opposed to Europe in general, where there was a shit ton of pogroms happening. But this is before World War II. And that's the reason why many Jews had escaped. Many Jews had fled the Inquisition, for example, and came to these Arab countries. And they lived, in comparison to their existence in Europe, or in comparison to their existence in Russia, for example, for the Ashkenazi Jews, like, they had a much better life in these Arab countries under the banner of Ottoman Empire as well. So all of that, of course, changed in the aftermath of the Nakba, while simultaneously the sovereignty initiatives were happening in all of these Arab nations. Different Arab nations. Like, they are all unique. They all have their own, they all had their own different struggles, right? To become nation states. To claim that this was all because of, like, Arab anti-Semitism, which forced Arab Jews to become Zionists, is bullshit.
My family and I...
Oh, I know, but he doesn't... Dude, Ethan, I think one of the worst things that he did was basically undermine Avi Shlaim's main thesis in terms of his own personal experience in Iraq as an Iraqi Jew, and then his own personal experience, his family's experience going to Israel, because there's also the second side of the story as well, of, like, the racism that they experienced, the racism that Arab Jews experienced in Israel when they first came to Israel was also horrifying. So it's like, it's his main thesis that he misrepresented by focusing on the first part, saying that Jews, of course, suffered violence in the hands of, like, pogroms or Arab resistance, right? Of course, they did. This is not something that I discount at all. Claiming that he didn't respect the Jews that rose up in arms against the Nazis because they aren't pacifists is also up there in terms of disgusting statement. Yeah.
We were Iraqi Jews. We were Arab Jews. And there was a long tradition of religious tolerance and coexistence between the different minorities. So for us...
Yeah, that's why I mentioned the entirety of Europe. Like, you don't say that you don't say that it was, like, European racism across the board that was responsible for the fucking Holocaust, right? You know that it was Nazi Germany.
Muslim-Jewish coexistence was not an abstract idea. It was the everyday reality. Iraq didn't have a Jewish problem. Europe had a Jewish problem. In Europe, the Jews were the other. They stood out. And anti-Semitism is a European malady. It was born in Europe in the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
The church had a lot to do with it. There was no tradition of anti-Semitism in the Arab world. It was...
By the way, when I say this, people say I'm a freaking Ottoman supremacist, neo-Ottoman, Ottoman supremacist, all this shit. Like, this is just a historical fact.
Exported from Europe to the Middle East.
You know, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, we got the Daily Wire's decline. You could say that the white supremacist ideology practiced in Germany was the same as the rest of Europe, just more severe. Yes, but it's important to also mention that severity, because, like, there have been throughout centuries, there have been pogroms directed by basically every single European country. Okay, but the reason why you don't say this is like you don't make it seem as though this was what actually contributed. Ironically enough, Israel doesn't even say, like, Europe is the reason why Israel exists in a negative fashion. They say it's like Arab racism and Arab anti-Semitism against Jews that is responsible for Israel. That's ridiculous. You could say that about, like, Nazi Germany more than you could say that about the Arabs. But of course you have to say that about the Arabs. And the reason why you have to say that about the Arabs is because you have to justify what you are doing to Palestinians. You have to justify what you're doing to other Arab nations as well. And that's precisely the reason why the experience of revenge, the narrative of revenge, still almost always goes back to the Arab countries. There's a lot of anti-Arab racism in the process that, I mean, you have to lean into, that you have to believe personally in order to at least justify the atrocities that take place. All right. People keep forgetting that the U.S. has also turned Jewish refugees away. Yeah. All right. So the hoodie is from Entire Studios, man. I'm fucking... Holy shit. And it's purposely box cut. It's short, okay? And it has a zipper that goes all the way up to your eye line, all right? God damn. Everybody always asks me. I don't even know if you'll be able to purchase it now because of the tariffs. God damn. Shirt is from the Palestinian Youth Movement. It's a Merkava tank with a child on top of it, throwing up the peace sign. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I'm working on having Avi Shlaim on the broadcast as well, specifically to address some of that misinformation. I think it's important to do that. But aside from that, let's do it. Let's start. Whoa. So Yemen's Houthis hit the Tel Aviv airport with hypersonic missiles. Israel vows response. Can you please get Ethan and his audience to listen into that? I don't think I can do that. I have no power over them.
Oh! Whoa!
An unprecedented scene in central
Why'd you say uh-oh?
Israel.
They have done this already. They've just never struck. They've never successfully struck like the airport before, but they've actually penetrated. The Houthis have successfully penetrated the Iron Dome in the past with loiter munitions and hypersonic missiles as well. This is not new. This is this is something that they've been able to do. I don't even know how. I don't even know how they've been able to do it. It's fucking insane to me. They are the poorest nation on the planet. Yeah, of course they get like support from regional actors, of course. But having said that, it's still incredible that they have any capacity to even survive, let alone resist one of the most powerful countries in the region.
By the Houthis in Yemen hits Ben Gurion Airport.
More
the
misinfo
Israeli
fodder?
military confirmed it failed to intercept the missile and is looking into how and why it was able to bypass the country's multi-layered air defense systems. The Houthis...
Watching Asmongold Pearl Coach about this is so funny. Is that what you said? Well, let me tell you something. It's expected. This is the opportunity. This is the opportunity for everyone who is pro-Israel to turn around and be like, can you imagine what missiles dropping looks like? Can you imagine? And it's like, dude, what are you saying? That's the past 16 months for people living in Gaza. That every single day for people living in Gaza that don't have a fucking Iron Dome or a multi-nation coalition specifically designed to intercept all missiles coming in the direction of Israel, which has the most powerful nation on the planet, the United States of America, leading said multinational coalition, okay, protecting the seas. Israel has dropped bombs and reduced their neighborhoods in southern Lebanon. Israel is bombing Syria right now. What are we talking about? Israel bombed the fucking airport in Yemen. Israel bombed the fucking Sanaa airport in Yemen while the World Health Organization's leader was inside of the airport. The idea that this is not tit for tat, the idea that this is like so impossible to contend with is ridiculous. The only way that you see this as a major atrocity, as opposed to the relentless bombing that the Yemeni population has endured for two administrations now, well, four technically, but especially in the last two, it means that you just don't see them as human beings and you only think of Israelis as human beings. That's it. Israel has shown every single country in the region that the only thing that they respond to is force. Okay, I've repeated this statement time and time again throughout many initiatives that Israel's taken where they claim to be fighting a 7-front war, where they claim to open new fronts in the war over and over again, while they're simultaneously doing a genocide. It's so crazy. Yeah, it didn't even disrupt the operations in the airport, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is it actually, when you have a missile all the way that goes all the way from Yemen to Israel to the Tel Aviv airport, that actually, it's not about killing someone. I'm glad that no one got killed in the process. What are you talking about? It's actually about killing the confidence that Israel has that they can get away with doing whatever the fuck they want. It's not even, these guys are not in the business. Like, here, a great example I will use is what Hezbollah did, right? Where Hezbollah, Aldani Marki's in the chat. If you're interested, salam alaikum, brother, just tuning in. If you're interested in the details of how the Houthis are able to do what they're doing from a technical perspective, I can recommend Tom Cooper's Hot Skies Over Yemen Volume 2 short read, very detailed. I think you'd like it. Okay, I don't know if we can get into that right now, but what I was saying is, fuck, I lost my train of thought. What I was saying was, there is this security blanket that Israel relies on to say you can, it's a social contract, right? You can live in Israel proper, and we will do everything in our power as a mighty nation to make sure that you have your regular life. You can go, you can, eat Israeli hummus, Sabra hummus. You can go listen to Psytrance music all day, every day. You can get your marketing job. You can get a degree in a university, and you can live the experience of a normal, Western nation, right? But Israel also simultaneously is doing a fucking genocide, right? And the Iron Dome and the defense mechanism that exists in the region to protect the day-to-day experiences of regular Israeli civilians, regular Israeli citizens, that has caused Israel to be able to behave in this incredibly violent manner and shelter its population from any sort of retaliation. Okay? Any sort of retaliation whatsoever. And Israel, because of that, has been able to radicalize its own countrymen and engage in these horrifying acts, these crimes against humanity, and it still doesn't matter. There is no repercussions for it whatsoever. But once that security barrier, the collective consciousness surrounding Israeli security goes away, once that veil is pierced, all of a sudden people start making different decisions. This is yet another form of pressure, right? This is why BDS was incredibly important in the abolition of the apartheid in South Africa. The abolition of the apartheid in South Africa was important because it made it so that South Africans were a pariah. White South Africans were treated as a pariah everywhere they went, and that created a lot of resentment internally, where they were like, this is unsustainable. The structure that we exist under is completely unsustainable. It's untenable because countries are refusing to support us. And if we want to be a normal country, we can't have this apartheid structure anymore. This is part of the reason why I've stated that the Houthis' actions in terms of resisting against Israel, while imperfect, still ultimately create pressure points against Israel. BDS, which is a peaceful mode of resistance, which the American government is actively trying to make illegal at the federal level tomorrow with an insane bill that they want to push, which we're going to be talking about in a little bit, where they've already at the state level made it illegal to engage in civil disobedience or any sort of peaceful initiative to implement boycotts, implement divestments, or implement sanctions on the state of Israel, demand sanctions on the state of Israel. The entire purpose of this project is to make sure that you simply cannot do anything against Israel whatsoever. There's just not a thing that you are allowed to do. It is always going to be a multifaceted approach to try and stop America's ally, to America's greatest ally, its favorite client state, from doing unlimited death and destruction without any sort of repercussions whatsoever. It's always going to be difficult. But I'm not going to sit around and constantly rail against those in the region that try to do anything to put a stop to it. Hold on. All right. Are they considering the fact that we have options to peacefully protest does prevent a lot of violent protests from happening? Would it making both illegal just lead to more extremes? I don't think they're thinking. I think they just are trying to, they're desperate and they're trying to manage the unpopularity. They are trying to manage the unpopularity of Israel because Israel is doing a mostly child victim holocaust that is live streamed every single fucking day. And people don't want it to happen. People look at that and they say, this is insane. 70% of the death in Gaza is women, children, and the elderly. Israel also kills the civilian men as well, but you know, even if you remove the men from the equation, it's still 70+%. It's like elderly, children, and women. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I see. Yemen just announced an aerial blockade on Israel in a sudden statement. That is crazy. I don't know. They're going wild. They're going buck wild, dude. Maybe they saw my debate. Yeah, there's a visual analysis coming out from Eric Toller showing the remnants of the last 3 American GBU-39 bombs, Boeing, shouts out to Boeing, at the site of the Yemeni migrant detention center that was bombed on Monday. Dozens of migrants died in the strike. And what is crazy about it is, why were the Houthis holding migrants in a prison? Where's the condemnation of that? Bro, that is insane. That is the most insane thing I've ever heard, because I know this motherfucker's a Trump supporter. Oh my God, a Trump supporter is upset because the Houthis had migrants in a prison? Are you serious? You can't, there ain't no way, man. This is the classic take that I always have, which is conservatives hate the conservative nature of foreign countries for their conservatism. It's like a guy who hates women and wants to make abortion illegal complaining about the fucking Taliban. It's a guy who basically wants the exact same thing to happen under Christian Sharia, okay? But complaining about the Taliban being horrible to women. It's like they stone women. It's like, well, you want that too? The fuck do you mean? I see the other things that you're advocating for, and it seems like you want the exact same thing here in the United States of America. You just, I guess, hate it when brown people are doing it. Like, what the fuck? At least try to figure out like a consistent principle here. What the fuck? He's mad at the hypocrisy, I presume. You were missing his point. No, he's the one who's being hypocritical, dude. What do you mean? You can't be a Trump guy and then be like, I can't believe the Houthis were holding migrants in prison. What are you saying? Also, America killed those migrants that were in that prison. You're missing the point for sure. Guys, I'm not missing the point. I'm flipping it on its head. I understand the point that he is trying to chatters. I know what the point is. Conservatives hate other conservatives in other countries, okay? For their conservatism. Conservatives do not hate other countries for being like woke or whatever. They hate the conservatism. They hate it when brown people are doing the same shit that they either A, want to do, or B, are currently in the process of doing. It is so strange to be a guy that's like, I love Donald Trump. I want a black bag and kill every migrant, to turn around and be like, I can't believe the Houthis had these migrants in a detention facility. Okay, well, America killed them. So, you know, America clearly did the worst thing to these migrants than what the fucking Houthis had done. Yeah, I guess we bombed. I guess we bombed the migrant detention facility to liberate the migrants from their bodies because we're so pro-migrant, you know? Hasan, you can be multiple things at once. People aren't monoliths. You're wrong, Hasan. Conservatives also hate military actions against civilians, unlike you. Wait, what? If those migrants were civilians, is a legit concern. Bro, America, the American military just took a militant action against those migrants and fucking killed them. What are you saying? You can be anti-migrant, but also oppose kidnapping civilians? What is going on? Hello? Dude, your worldview does not make any fucking sense. Quit playing games with my heart, okay? Mike G plays games. What the fuck are you saying? Yes, you can be both of those things at once. I am not in favor of detention for migrants, okay? I'm not in favor of detention of migrants when the Houthis do it. I'm not in favor of detention of migrants when America does it, okay? I'm not in favor of it whatsoever. America killed those migrants in the detention facility, and you're still complaining about the fact that they were in a detention facility. America used a military action to kill those migrants in a detention facility, and you're over here talking about conservatives also hate military actions against civilians, unlike you. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Then do you hate America then? Because America killed them, and America has killed plenty of other civilians in Yemen so far. Yes, you are. Ha 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 ha. I just, don't Americans hate European wokeness more? It's not about supporting military actions against civilians, dummies. Stop being obtuse. The migrant argument is secondary. Okay, dude. All right. Well, good luck to you. All right, I'm done. I'm done trying to explain to you what just unfolded. Anyway, but going back to this, Yemen's Houthis hit Tel Aviv airport with hypersonic missile. Israel vows response. Let's take a look.
Houthis say that this attack was a success.
The missile force of the Yemeni armed forces carried out a military operation targeting Ben Gurion airport using a hypersonic ballistic missile. The missile successfully hit its target.
Israeli authorities say the damage to the airport and the perimeter is minimal, despite a massive crater being formed when the missile hit the area.
You can see the scene right behind us here.
Hey, Hasan, I just want to let you know, a lot of my normie friends saw the content cop and then started diving deeper into the lore, culminating in your debate Friday. You won them over based on being more normal and compassionate, lol.
A hole that opened up with a diameter of tens of meters and also tens of meters deep.
Israel's defense minister says the country will strike.
You pay taxes to America, you support dummy Hasan. I know, dude. That's why I fucking spend every goddamn waking moment trying to correct that error. Okay? I try to use the limited confines that are still available to me, like free speech, until it goes away for even American citizens, you know, to try and get enough people on board with this so that there's enough popular resistance against this sort of thing at the heart of empire that we can finally have some kind of democratic process, because there's only so much give and take here until our politicians go, all right, well, like, we really got to fucking dial this shit back, because otherwise then, you know, democracy is over and everybody recognizes that they're living under authoritarian rulership. And we are living under authoritarian rulership under the Trump administration, especially. The problem here is this is a real which way Western man moment for America. And that is what I try to get people to understand. It's so funny that people go, well, you pay your taxes, big dog. Maybe you should stop doing that. It's like, brother, that is the reason why I speak out against these atrocities. The same people go, why do you care about Israel so much? Okay, why do you care about Israel so much? It's just over there. I don't care about it. And I try to explain to people, I care about it because that's my tax dollars. Like, we are morally culpable. Okay, we are morally culpable for what is taking place. Obtuse Hasan paying taxes. I love they're so butthurt. How is this a talking point? Like, they go to jail for tax evasion, you hypocrite. Like, I pay my taxes. Should I say where it goes? No, they use that. Ethan tried to use that against me because I was saying that, like, you know, Hila could have gotten out of service or become a conscientious objector. And in certain circumstances, that means, like, you go to prison for, like, 30 days. But that in and of itself, like, that in and of itself, the military service, the mandatory conscription in Israel is not the major point of contention for me. Okay, your defense of the Israeli occupying force as it's doing these atrocities is the major point of contention for me. I understand how social conditioning plays a formative role in people's development when they grow up in a country like Israel. I myself wanted to serve in the military of Turkey, which also has a mandatory conscription. My father was like, don't fucking do that shit. Are you stupid? And I literally, because I live in the United States of America and worked in the United States of America, I had an opportunity to pay a fee to avoid service, which the Turkish government offers. Okay, which Ethan called selfish, ironically enough. So that's also inconsistent with the whole argument that, like, what should have Hila done or whatever. She could renounce at any point still, but talks about how awesome it was and is. Yeah.
Back as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu security chiefs consider a potential response. Hamda Salhout, Al Jazeera.
Let's take a closer look at the Houthis, who they are. The Iran-backed group has carried out attacks across the Red Sea, positioning themselves as supporters of Palestinians during Israel's war on Gaza. The Houthis have targeted Israel with missiles and drones, aligning with other Iran-backed factions to oppose Israeli policies. Their naval operations have significantly disrupted critical international trade routes, triggering Western military responses and forcing the rerouting of global maritime traffic. Mohammed Al-Attab has more now from the Yemeni capital, Sana'a.
We are witnessing continued attacks by the Ansar Allah over the last period since the beginning of the U.S. aerial bombardment. Despite of this heavy bombardment, the Ansarullah still have they still have their own operations to continue. Last night, over the night, and into the early hours of today, the U.S. aerial bombardment continues. They have hit different provinces, including Sa'da, Al-Jawf, Al-Hudaydah, and Marib in the country's north.
We all know who's calling the shots in Yemen. Stop. I don't even want to get into that. I feel like that makes that's probably the biggest L for the Houthis, like in this specific conflict, is like that actually made me reconsider whether he was an American agent or not. I no longer think he's an American agent for that reason, unless the Houthis have no understanding of like security. I think he has to be a FSB guy. Now, I'm not like one of these blue and on libs. Okay, I'm not one of these blue and on libs at all, but he has to be like FSB. They literally brought in a guy who is a Trump supporter, man. Like, that dude has been a Trump supporter and is directly linked up with people in the cabinet, like Tulsi Gabbard and shit. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. And yes, I'm a little jelly beans. Like, I will recognize
West
that.
And the center. In Sa'da alone, there were 8 airstrikes targeting Takhya region on the district of Majz district. They have hit also Sahar district in the same province. On the western coast, 2 airstrikes hit Ras Isa in Al Hudaydah province, with additional strikes targeting Kamaran Island and also the As-Sarif district. Meanwhile, also they have hit Marib with 10 airstrikes. Particularly, they have launched attacks on Majza.
Nobody's saying he doing material support for the Houthis and should be arrested. Weird, huh? It's because I don't even think he lives in America anymore. There's no way. After I saw him, post up with some prominent actual Houthis, like side by side in Yemen, and do that speech in front of a massive crowd, like there's 0% chance he's ever. If he steps foot in the United States of America and doesn't instantly get arrested, he is an American federal agent, okay? But if he probably lives in Russia. There is 0% chance. Yeah, Chad, he doesn't live in Russia, you dummies. No, he has to live in Russia. There is no shot he lives in America, dude. Mods, get ready. Every MAGA communist on the planet has been alerted. No, he does not live in Europe. There's no way. He lives in Europe? Okay, still might be a Western asset then. No shot. He has to. There is not a single country that he can step foot in after doing what he has done so far and be free of legal scrutiny. I'm talking about Jackson Hinkle. Bro, he went to the Nasrallah funeral. He went to fucking Yemen. He spoke at the he spoke in Sanaa. Like, at most, he's going to like Belarus. Okay, that's the most Europe he will see. Or yeah, when he went into like occupied Ukrainian land, that's the closest he's gotten to Europe. That's as far west as he can go. Is under the banner of Russia. Yes, Hinkle lives in Romania, if I am not wrong. No shot. If he does, I am telling you, no shot. Then he's a Fed. Then he's a Western Fed. That's all I'm saying. There's just 0% chance. But I don't think he is doing that. I think he must be living in Russia. I think that's what the ACP guys say.
District, and another 6 aerial bombardments on Madghal in Al-Jawf also province. They have hit Al-Hazm district with 10 airstrikes. Despite this heavy bombardment, as I told you, the last night and over the 1 month and a half, the Ansarullah fighters continue their airstrikes and launching ballistic missiles on deep inside Israel. Also, we have confirmed bombarding Ben Gurion in an attempt to achieve what they claim or what they are aiming at to make this international airport as a new safe area for international flights.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel.
What time are you talking to Consular? In 15 minutes. Yemen's Houthi rebel strike Israel while Gaza is on the brink of famine.
War came to Ben Gurion, Israel's only international airport.
Whoa! Whoa! Whoa, it's a boom!
There's one foreign militant group still capable of launching such an attack, and it fired a missile which landed not far from...
Bro, what's so crazy about this, by the way, and this is like, I'll just say it like this. What's so wild about it is that Yemen, in spite of its status as the poorest nation on the planet, that has overcome an incredibly brutal blockade implemented by Western-backed forces from Saudi Arabia and the UAE, okay, surviving all of that and still being the poorest country on the planet, still has like some semblance of a standing military and precision strike capabilities as a country, right? Like, because they're a nation state and they're not simply a militant group that is operating within the confines of like the Lebanese, the Lebanese government, right? So their capabilities are vast in comparison to what Hezbollah can do from Lebanon, a country that is also under a security agreement with the United States of America. And they are arresting people just for following you. What are you talking about? What? I just got arrested and released from the cops. I'm going to Jill Stein myself right now. They're coming after us now. What are you talking about? There's no shot. What? 0% chance. Explain yourself right now. That's got to be a lie to fucking freak out people. No. Brother, what do you mean? They would arrest me before they arrest you for following me. What the fuck? That's for sure. No. It's no shot. It's a 1-month sub too.
From the main terminal building. This spokesman for Houthi rebels, who control much of Yemen, said the attack was in support of the Palestinian people and against what he called genocide.
I said no shot.
At the scene itself, an Israeli policeman said there was no significant damage, casualties. But European and American airlines have cancelled flights, and after weeks of Houthi missile launches, one was eventually bound to get through. Israel bans journalists from Gaza, but the army has provided these pictures of its...
Yeah, that chatter said that so that people say shit like this. Get the fuck out of here, chatters. You're so dumb. Don't be stupid.
Expanding military operation, involving the mobilization of thousands of reservists. The army says that dozens of Hamas fighters have been killed this past week, along with 2 Israeli soldiers.
We have 2 missions, one to bring our hostages back and 2 to defeat Hamas. Hamas will no longer be there. You have to understand this.
But protesters in Tel Aviv accused their prime minister of being more focused on military victory than releasing hostages. 59 of them are still missing, with only 24 of them thought to be alive. And the longer this war lasts, more of them could be killed.
The main issue is that the military operation is going stronger and stronger, and they're talking about bringing more troops and reserves, and we're really afraid that it's going to kill most of the hostages.
But what of Gaza's people themselves? Inside their family tent, Ahmed's parents take off his top to show the effect of Israel's aid blockade on the body of a 7-year-old child. His smallest sibling, Khaled, weighs just half what a 9-month-old should. This, one of more than 9,000 children, UNICEF says have been treated for acute malnutrition in Gaza so far this year.
Jonathan Rugman reporting there. Well, I've been speaking to Mahmoud Al-Saka, who is in Gaza, where he runs Oxfam's food distribution security. I asked him to give us a sense of the situation on the ground right now.
It has been now 63 days since Israeli authorities imposed a complete blockade on all the supplies coming into Gaza. So we are facing a catastrophic humanitarian situation. And today we are seeing that Gaza again is on the brink of famine because it's simply there is no food left in Gaza. We have noticed some improvement in February during the ceasefire, but unfortunately, it's quickly reversed. To be honest, the words cannot fully convey the severity of the current situation on the ground in Gaza Strip. Yeah.
I mean, as you say, you are entering the third month of this blockade of aid by the Israeli government.
45 minutes on Tel Aviv's attack and a couple minutes about the genocide. Brother, are you crazy? This is actually incredible. The very fact that they briefly mention the Tel Aviv strike and also Israel's statements vowing retaliation and immediately package it with Israel's fucking depraved humanitarian aid blockade, which is a war crime, by the way, means that the tide has shifted dramatically under normal circumstances. I mean, this is Channel 4, and they have been probably one of the most pro-Palestine mainstream media outlets across the board, right? As far as like legacy publishers and mainstream media goes, Channel 4 has been definitely at the forefront. Not to say that they're perfect. They're far from perfect, okay? But consistently, they have spoken out. They've consistently spoken out against Israel, or have like shown what is an accurate reflection of what's happening on the day-to-day existence in Gaza. Having said that, the very fact that they are packaging the overwhelming majority of this commentary around Israel's starvation campaign means that the tide has shifted. Under normal circumstances, it would be the exact opposite. They would talk for 1 minute about the starvation and then package it as like the greatest crime against humanity against the poor Israelis that are so scared that to live inside of bomb shelters now or whatever. That's how they used to package it. That's how most mainstream media was packaging these stories.
Tell me what supplies, if
nowadays in Gaza, the families cannot barely manage to have a meal a day. The market is dysfunctional. There is no meat, no eggs, no dairy products, and there is a scarcity even in the vegetables. So the markets, it's become almost empty. And if it's available, it's unaffordable. We are talking of soaring prices. You can imagine that a sack of wheat flour with 25 kilograms is about $500. It used to be by $15. Community kitchens nowadays are the only lifeline for food assistance now. The people spend hours in front of these community kitchens in order to get their meals, and it's not guaranteed even to have their meals. The people, you can see the people are gathering the remnants of the food from the ground, and the children is craving the last bits from the empty food containers. So the people nowadays are eating whatever they find, even if it's unclean or unhealthy.
I mean, what needs to happen? Israel has said it will not lift the blockade until Hamas release the remaining hostages. What do you want to see? Is it pressure from the outside world on Hamas to release the hostages? Pressure from the outside?
The Palestinian bourgeoisie cashing in on the catastrophe is a crazy thing to say. There is no more, functionally, there is no more Palestinian bourgeoisie at this point. It's a genocide, okay? That's ridiculous. In Gaza, there is no like capital owning class. Most of the food that they have, they don't even have like normal. There's a tick. I don't want to give a lot of attention to Palestinian creators on TikTok and whatnot, because I don't want there to be any harm that comes their way. But there is a 16-year-old that is a TikToker in Gaza that shows the conditions in the markets that I have reposted a bunch of times. Like, there's nothing. There's no more food. The only food that's like readily available is at food depots and like aid sites. And even then, there's very little food left at this point. And that is because for the past 2 months Israel has stopped all humanitarian aid from going into Gaza.
Outside world on the Israeli government to move their position. What would you like to see now?
What we would like to see is to not weaponize the food. According to the international humanitarian law, it's not even allowed to use the food and the humanitarian supplies as a weapon, as a means for make this pressure to Hamas or others. They need to have a pressure and more pressure on the Israeli authorities
Yeah, this is what the this is what I was talking about.
Actually run out of food?
I'm gonna go to the markets right now. Look at the swivel next to me. That's crazy.
So I was pretty hungry, so I went to the market and I was really shocked. This guy who usually sells vegetables, all his shelves are empty. You know, maybe he's closed down, so I went to another shop. Also empty. So I went to grab a drink. Empty.
The markets were empty, bro. I'll just go home.
So why is the market empty? Well, the borders have been closed since March 2nd. That's 8 weeks. Since the border is closed, no food has been entering. If you're lucky,
what does this mean? House Mafia hitman? In air quotes.
Enough to find something in the markets, it's expensive. And there's no proper food, which means everyone in Gaza is malnutritioned. I'm malnutritioned. I'm 16 years old. I need proper food to grow. I'm a teenager. To answer the question, is Gaza running out of food? Yes.
He's doing Pallywood. You're saying that that other chatter is implying Pallywood, right? Not you're saying he's doing Pallywood. I cannot, in good conscience, assume that a 40-month subscriber... Yeah. Okay. No, dog lol, I've been here for years. Yeah, okay. You're saying the other chatter was saying, it was implying Pallywood. What's Pallywood? Oh, for those of you who don't know what Pallywood is, it is the grossest Nazi thing that Israel defenders do, where they claim Hollywood. It's a term for Hollywood. They say that Palestinians do Pallywood as they fake the atrocities that they're experiencing. It's not a real thing. It's a horrible, in real time, Holocaust revisionist perspective. Yeah, that's what that means. When you hear someone, when you hear like an account saying like Pallywood again or whatever, here, let's look at the Wikipedia. Pallywood, a portmanteau of Palestine and Hollywood, is a disinformation campaign used to falsely accuse Palestinians for faking suffering and civilian deaths during their conflict in Israel. The term came into currency following the killing of Mohammed al-Durra in 2000 during the Second Intifada, involving a challenge to the veracity of the photographic evidence. Israeli pundits have used the term to dismiss videos showing Israeli violence or denial of Palestinian suffering. During the Gaza war, it has been used to dismiss Palestinian suffering, such as claiming dead Palestinian babies are dolls, and also has been described by some authors as a conspiracy theory. The term has been used as a propaganda and disinformation tool by the Israeli government officials. Some of the most insane things they'll do is like they'll have like a music video shot in Lebanon, and they'll post the music video being shot to imply that they're shooting it in Gaza to lie about the Israeli atrocities or something like that. It's insane. It is the same as Holocaust denialism. It's just, it's happening in real time. Yeah, Al-Durra is the famous photo of the child, right? Child hiding behind his dad that gets shot in the Second Intifada. Yeah. Benjamin Netanyahu has also said these are telegenically dead children, like implying that Palestinians purposefully killed themselves in front of Israeli missiles, in front of Israeli gunfire to make the world hate Israel. Of course, the quickest solution to that is to not shoot the Palestinian civilians. Yeah. Another, Pallywood is also what Sex Pestiny Bonarelli has also implied, saying that Palestinians were farming TikTok clips when they were being killed while waving white flags by the Israeli military. That's what Destiny said about the person that was shot after being interviewed.
Open the crossings and borders so we can get our supplies and the humanitarian supplies without any restrictions. We need to work freely in supporting the people without taking all these issues into consideration, the militarization and the weaponization of the food.
And can I ask you finally and very briefly, if you would, do you think the outside world should be ashamed of its approach to Gaza at the minute?
I'm not sure how they are just passively scrolling, you know, this horrifying images and videos that the suffering of the Gazas without having an action to all these things. This is make a lot of people are losing faith of the international community and the international community principles and laws. So this is why we are insisting there is still a window for interventions, an urgent intervention and action in that regards to support and to save the people who are living here.
I'm going to have Chris Kunzler on now.
Thank you very much for talking to us today.
Thank you.
Well, also earlier I spoke to the Labour MP, Emily Thornberry, who's chair of the Foreign Affairs Select Committee.
Hello,
and
Chris.
I asked her first.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, all right.